Unleash the power of your training. How to reinforce training and sustain momentum with microcoaching.
It's time to welcome our guest. He's a certified professional behavioral analyst and the CEO of Sales Fuel, a Columbus, Ohio-based sales enablement firm. For 3 straight years, he's been recognized as one of the world's leading sales consultants for coaching and training by Selling Power magazine, an author of 2 Amazon bestsellers, and the co-host of the Manage Smarter show on iHeartRadio and C-Suite TV. Today, he'll be speaking about microcoaching and how it reinforces training and sustains momentum in the development of your team. Without further ado, please welcome C. Lee Smith.
Thank you very much, Matt. And for those of you who are in chat or whatever, you can just refer to me as Lee. C. Lee Smith is my professional name. Otherwise, when you Google me, you'll get me confused with the baseball pitcher, and we can't have that. So what to expect today? We're going to talk about sales microcoaching. And, Matt pretty much laid it all out. We're going to allow for a Q&A session at the end. So we hope that you will go ahead and put your questions in the chat area then so that Matt can moderate those for us. And that's pretty much how this is going to go. So we're going to have a poll in just a moment. We're going to ask for your feedback, but we're going to get right to it because we got a lot to cover in a short period of time. So let's just start off with the essential question is why are managers expected to coach? They're not professional coaches. Too many of them are not trained to be coaches, but yet a lot of upper management expects them to coach. Why is that? And the reason why other companies coach is because it's clearly 77% of companies say it's because they want better employee performance. And they believe that. 57% is because they want a stronger culture. And you had heard Evan just mention that just a few minutes ago. Better employee retention, 56% better engagement. But the fifth one I highlighted in green, and because it's particularly important right now with, we're going through the tail end of COVID-19. We're still dealing with a lot of people then that are going to be working from home and probably will be doing that for quite some time. So it's we've had a shift. And so the improved ability to deal with a major change is another reason why companies coach. Or expect their managers to coach. So, I come from Sales Fuel, and I'm going to be interjecting a little bit of sales stuff in here, but this session is not going to be about sales. This is going to be about training. It's going to be about learning, and it's going to be about enablement. But I will throw this in there about sales. As an example, organizations that are effective at coaching have positively correlated performance advantages over other firms, according to a study done by the Sales Management Association. So if they're coaching a salesperson's performance, plus 13%. If they're coaching a salesperson's motivation, their mindset, add another 9%. And add another 6% if they're developing a salesperson's skills through coaching. So as you can tell, that is quite a significant improvement compared to other companies that aren't effective at coaching. That's why we're doing it, and that's why we're here today. But there's some other benefits to internal coaching. Better knowledge retention. And learning sustainment is absolutely a key reason then to be coaching, so that you can have other people reinforce your message. Improved identification, development of your high potential employees, better management capabilities, but all of this then leads to higher profitability. So when we're talking then to the higher ups, to the people then that are actually making the decisions and have control of the budgets, that is the main reason to be doing this. So effective coaching. It's 3 parts. It's performance management, which is show me what you've done. It's developmental coaching, which let's build your skills. And mindset coaching, let's improve what's holding you back, because nothing's going to change until the mindset improves. The problem is that managers too often fail to focus here. They're focused solely on, hey, where are you with this particular project? Where are you and getting through your training courses with my team? Or a special project, or in sales, certainly, it's why haven't you closed a McGillicuddy account? But so managers are so focused on the activities that lead to the immediate results, the status reports and stuff. They don't spend a lot of time in developmental coaching and mindset coaching. And the problem with that is that providing only metrics management is perceived as criticism, whereas the other stuff is actually perceived as helpful, as an investment in them. So let's go ahead and start with the poll, Matt. Let's go ahead and push this one out. We've created a poll for you, which is, what is the number one barrier keeping your company from being more successful with coaching? So you'll see your answer, your selections here. Managers don't have the time for coaching. Resistance from the manager's employees. Managers are not held accountable for coaching their direct reports. Managers continue to do it their way despite how they're trained. And managers and leadership don't see the need for coaching. They don't value it. Managers lack strong coaching skills.
And we do have some results coming in. It looks like managers lack strong coaching skills is the lead runner.
Okay. So that's interesting, because now I'm going to share with you what the 5 barriers to coaching are, as concluded by some research done by the Association for Talent Development in 2019. And it's in a special report that we sponsored called Managers as Coaches. The number one barrier is lip service. Managers are not held accountable for coaching their direct reports. 60% of companies say that that's their top problem. Then you have managers lacking strong coaching skills, don't have time, continue to do it their way, and that managers don't understand the need. Not on this list is the 6th item, which is resistance from managers' employees. So, as Evan says, and he's absolutely correct on this, is that the employees want to be coached just like they want to be trained. I mean, especially the younger ones, they want the feedback, they want to improve, they want to create opportunities for advancement. And of course, training and coaching is the way to that. So because of this also tells you that more one-on-one coaching is not the answer. I see some consultants out there saying, oh yes, managers who coach at least 50% of their work time, have more productive staffs and have higher performance and everything like that. I don't know what universe or whatever that we can expect managers then to spend 50% of their time doing coaching when you've got so many other requirements that are vying for their time. So because there's a lip service and the managers are not, so they're not being held accountable. So it's like more coaching, demanding more coaching is not the answer, because they're not being held accountable for the coaching they're doing now. They lack the coaching skills. So again, it's like, let's do more of a sloppy or a bad thing. They say they don't have the time. It's probably because they lack the coaching skills and they feel uncomfortable doing it. But it's like, so that's not going to be the answer. And they're going to continue to do it their way, which is, an effective way in many cases, when, there's some very structured and methods then to coaching properly. So just demanding more one-on-one coaching is not the answer in this particular case. Let's talk about who gets the one-on-one coaching. The low performers tend to get the majority of the one-on-one coaching. So here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that we have managers then who are spending their time coaching, trying to save a bad hire. It's just like when these low performers screw up and they say, oh, you need more training. It's like, first of all, training and coaching should never be punitive. All right. But it's like, but we're wasting a lot of time on the low performers and we're starving the others. So you have the high potential. So when they come into the company, obviously they're new, so they're going to get more coaching. That makes sense. That's why I highlighted that in green. High performers, 38%. But the thing is the high performers think that they already know more than the managers anyway. I mean, so they're, so is that a waste of time? Or it's like, instead of the one-on-one coaching, that should be career planning. That should be like, okay, where are you going to go next? Because you're on a fast track here. Let's help you get there and develop your skills and help you focus on where you're going next. That makes more sense. And then lastly, disengaged employees or those who are resistant to coaching. That makes no sense to be spending a lot of coaching time there, because they're resistant to coaching. You might as well be talking to a brick wall. So like all coaching, micro-coaching, which we're going to talk about here in a second, has the most impact on your new hires and your middle 60%. All right, so that's where the emphasis should be, but as you can tell here, that's not where the emphasis is on one-on-one coaching. So as you can see, there are a lot of problems with the one-on-one coaching that's currently being done. So let's talk about micro-coaching and what that's all about. Micro-coaching is short, frequent bursts of coaching personalized to the individual specific needs that fill the gaps between the one-on-one coaching and also fill the content gaps of the one-on-one coaching. So it can be seen as a supplement to the one-on-one coaching, not necessarily a replacement for one-on-one coaching. And there are 4 essential elements that I want to go over with you. The first one is, and I put them right here. So it's needs assessment, adaptive learning, micro-learning, and then developmental coaching. So the needs assessment is really revealing their strengths and what holds them back. Adaptive learning, as many of you know, personalized to each individual's greatest area of need or strengths, and it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all. It's not like we're doing a classroom session where everybody gets the same training. Focused bite-sized guidance for busy, distracted, and overwhelmed employees. And these days, that's an awful lot of us. That's why we do the micro-learning. And the developmental coaching, though, is important because that facilitates the self-awareness, and it does it in the context of the job role, whether it be sales, whether it be marketing, whether it be customer service, logistics, you name it. You know, these are the 4 essential elements of micro-coaching. So I want to dive in a little bit deeper on each one. The key to micro-coaching is discovery, and that's the needs assessment. So where are they lacking in job acumen? What's their biggest areas of strengths? You know, what are their greatest areas of weakness, whether it's be the knowledge gaps, the confidence gaps, or just, you know, knowing what they should do when and when to apply what tactics to what particular situation. Yeah, so you have to identify that. But just as importantly, in some cases more importantly, where are they lacking in people skills? Because if they can't get along with the customer, if they can't get along with the suppliers, they can't get along with their coworkers, their managers, and everything like that, that's going to be a problem. What motivates them? You have to know what motivates them, because that's what's going to, I mean, that should be what's driving them to get coached and get trained to begin with. They have to want it to be able to get the true benefits of coaching as well as from training. How are they likely to handle stress and pressure? How coachable are they naturally? So so if we find that naturally they're resistant to coaching, then, you know, that could be a time waste. Now, maybe they're naturally coachable, but because they don't trust their manager, then they might appear to be uncoachable, but in the reality of it, that's just a reaction to their environment. So that's something to keep in mind. How do they make decisions? What are the best ways to communicate with them? So you have some people then that are, you know, constantly, hey, got to get shit done and everything like that. So it's like, we got to be very quick. We speak in bullet points. You have some people, though, that are very imaginative. And so we need to say, hey, imagine then a world where you could do X, Y, and Z, and people would feel this way, and so forth and so on. And you have very analytical types. It's like, you got to give them facts, figures, and numbers. So best ways to communicate them is also part of the needs assessment. And it really is the key to making this whole thing work, because that is what gives you the information you need to do adaptive learning. So the coaching should be adapted to their job role. So sales reps, for example, need different coaching than marketers. Hunters need, different than farmers. Accountants, certainly different than creative people. So adapted to what their purpose in the company, and what they see their purpose in the world is, how they think, what they're going through now, who they are as people outside of work. These are all things that we want to adapt the coaching to, so that when we speak, it can be heard. Who they want to be in the future, both as people and professionals, and then how they received information best. Because micro coaching is personal. It's not a presentation. It's not a classroom thing. It's it's every single person we have to adapt the content for and speak to them as individuals. Then we get into micro learning. So many of you are familiar with micro learning, but I'll recap this again. Micro learning is focus. We focus on only one main point at a time. There's not a curriculum or anything like that. It's one topic at a time. Short, 2 to 5 minutes. That is the average learner's sweet spot for attention. Especially these days, and because the phone's going to ring, or there's going to be some distraction. 2 to 5 minutes will get the job done. It could be as simple as a text message, but it needs to be frequent. And the idea of this is that it maintains the momentum between one-on-one coaching, because most employees, according to all the surveys that we have done and that we have seen from third parties, indicate that most employees get their one-on-one coaching on an average between 2 to 3 weeks at a time. So 2 to 3 weeks go by in between one-on-one session. There's a lot of information that can be forgotten in that point of time. So frequency is key. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face meeting, not even on video. It doesn't have to be that. It should be interactive. So We use coaching questions, but you can use polls. Gamification's a lot of fun. Real world is best for practical takeaways. So if we're getting into discussions about theory or methodology or process or complex subject matter, that's going to go beyond 5 minutes. And that's probably best saved for a one-on-one session. So for that reason, microcoaching is continuous. It's not a calendar event. So it's not like, oh, you're going to report for microcoaching today, and here's your slot on your calendar. No, this happens on a frequent, regular basis, at least weekly, sometimes 2-3 times a week, and also in the moment whenever the need arises. So what's the difference you might be thinking about between microlearning and microcoaching? And there's one key difference. Key difference is that microcoaching uses open-ended and reflective coaching questions as the activity. It's a difference between what are you going to do next as compared to what did you learn today? We're not checking to see that they actually learned anything or that they actually heard any great piece of advice or wisdom that we're offering people. It's a matter of, what are you going to do next? It's personal. So that gets you into developmental coaching. And this is focused on developing skills and wills of the coachee in the context of their job will. So skills can be accounting skills, factory skills, sales skills, marketing skills, etc. The will is like, okay, do they have the will to be excellent at their job? Skills and wills. It must be a two-way interaction. This is not a manager then pontificating from on high, talking about back in the day, I was the number one, nobody cares. It's not for status updates. It's not for behavior correction. The knowledge gained from the personal needs assessment that I mentioned earlier allows you to ask smarter questions. And you can't possibly know how to motivate your team if you don't know what motivates them at the core level. And here's a hint, it's not always about money. Even for salespeople, it's not always about money. So micro-coaching isn't telling, it's asking. It's all about the questions that get asked. So here's a couple of examples of micro-coaching as applied to sales. And Matt, how much time do I have right now?
Are at 11 minutes left.
Okay, great. Perfect timing. Let me give you a couple of examples from our Coach Feed platform, which is a micro-coaching platform for salespeople. So here's what something like that looks like. It starts off with a tip. So after getting a commitment to buy, you may need to take a moment to assure the client that the value promise will be received. Why did they get that? Because it's adaptive, because we know through the needs assessment that a salesperson in this particular case is good at making the sale, but they're not so good at following through and delivering the solution that was promised to them. So that's why they get a tip like that. Then we recommend reading or a video or an audio clip from a podcast, something like this. In this case, this is reading, and there's a link to it. They click on that. And the activity here, a micro-learning activity, is a reflect and respond. And so they're coaching questions. If you could change one thing about the way we do business to ensure that we've delivered everything that's expected, what would it be? And if your accounts could change one thing about the way they do business with you, what would it be? See, we're making it personal. We're making it personal. So that's how that looks. We also then take a look at the mindset then. And let's just say that this person then, through the needs assessments, we've learned that this person is averse to conflict. Recognize that you can never resolve the conflict by avoiding it. And then there's the rest of the tip. Here's a link to a video to watch about navigating difficult people and conversations. And in what way might this tendency help or hinder you in your job role? How does it impact your ability to have difficult conversations that are beneficial to all concerned? So in an ideal situation, not only would they ask themselves that question and reflect upon it, but they should write it down, because journaling then is a highly effective way for them to actually capture that message and to think about that message. It's even better if it gets shared with the manager and the manager follows up then in the next one-on-one sessions for discussion. But nonetheless, that's the coaching questions that go to that. So a bit about the platform. It's personalized coaching playbooks for sales managers. Coach Feed is automatically sending feeds out through email and through Slack. And the managers can be involved as much or as little as they want. And if you hit the Expo button when we're done here, you can check out Coach Feed. I got John Powers over there that can show it to you. You can also visit coachfeed.com. But enough of the sponsor message. Here's some other stuff that you can get for free. I've mentioned the research managers as coaches with the ATD. It's like that's a special report that you can get for free. Normally, it would cost you $495 if you're not a member of ATD. weekly newsletter where we cover micro coaching and several topics like that in the Sales Fuel Weekend newsletter. That's free. And also my co-host Audrey Strong and I, we have the Manage Smarter podcast. We're now in our 4th year. And we cover topics like this on a regular basis there. You can visit the insights section of salesfuel.com and get all that stuff for free. So let me just hit today's 10 takeaways, and then we'll get into time for questions. Coaching isn't telling, it's asking. Micro-coaching reinforces the training you deliver and improves knowledge retention. Coaching requires accountability so that when you're selling a concept like this internally, make sure you pitch higher up. Don't go to the managers that are going to be doing the coaching, because you're going to get pushback, because about a third of them are going to push back against any coaching initiative. Because they don't understand it, they don't believe in it, they feel like they don't have time for it. They feel like if they resist it, then like everything else that corporate throws at them, that it'll go away on its own, and half the time they're right. Micro coaches short, frequent bursts of coaching relevant to the employee. The key is discovery. It bridges the gap of time between one-on-one, and it fills the gap of missing skills and wills. The development that's not happening in existing coaching right now. Keep in mind, the job performance shows where they've been, but mindset shows where they're going. So it's like when we're doing coaching, even micro coaching, it's like we're focused in on values and beliefs. We're focused on motivations. We're focused on behavior, because those are the things that lead to the activities that lead to the results. Micro coaching multiplies the impact of your existing coaching method. So it's a great supplement. It's a catalyst. And micro coaching can be automated so as not to pile more work on your sales managers. So that way we can overcome an objection, for adoption then by managers. So you can email me at leesmith@salesfuel.com if you don't feel comfortable asking a question publicly during this session. But if you do, we've got some time for some Q&A. So Matt, what do we have?
Absolutely. So right now I don't see anything in chat, but I do have a question myself.
Great.
So at the front of the presentation, you had mentioned, it's great for new hires, and 60% of that middle staff, these micro coaching. Is that how do you identify those individuals that aren't going to be receptive to coaching, and then what do you do in that situation?
That's a great question. I put together a white paper I just recently published that called "Are They Coachable?" And you can also find that on the Sales Fuel website, and that's free. And that indicates in all of the ways in which you can identify if someone is resistant to coaching. So there's 7 different personas that you can look for. There's also then some things that you can learn from assessments, from behavioral assessments and psychometric assessments that'll indicate if they're coachable or not. Along with a couple other things that I included in the white paper. So that's a whole half hour by itself. I mean, so best thing, advice that I can give to everybody watching is to go grab that white paper, because we go into great detail about that.
Absolutely. And I do see a comment from Jennifer Romanoff. She is asking if you can go back to the key takeaways 5 through 8.
5 through 8. Here we go.
I see 9 and perfect. And would you like to talk to those again?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Bridges the gap of time between one-on-ones, because as we know, the knowledge starts to go away. I mean, it's sort of like when you drive a new car off the lot. So it's like when you leave training or something like that, immediately knowledge starts to be lost. And the same thing applies in for one-on-one coaching. Same thing happens there. So the idea is that it's not realistic to ask managers, who are short-staffed and have an awful lot on their plate, dealing with an awful lot right now, to say, hey, you need to double the amount of time that you're spending on coaching. That's going to get a lot of pushback. But what you can do, though, is use micro coaching then to bridge the gap between that. So you have one-on-one session, micro coaching, one-on-one session. And that's a good way to do it. And then, of course, I really believe that because of managers, and I'm looking at the sales world, which is where I come from. The sales managers rank, what topics of conversation are most important and one-on-one conversations. And of course, 2 of them are skills development and motivation. But also when they're also asked, okay, what topics are you most comfortable discussing during a one-on-one session? Those two things rank at the very bottom. And that's just for sales. So it's like, it's not just for sales, because it's like we see that across the board. So why are they not comfortable having those conversations? Because they haven't done the homework on the front end. They haven't done the needs assessment. They really find out what's making their employees tick. And so, or it's like, you have some intuitives that basically says, I know what I'm doing. I coach the same for everybody. Or, oh yeah, I know Bob. Bob's been here for 5 years. Yeah, I know how to talk to Bob. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe there's a better way to talk to Bob. So, but again, that's where discovery comes into play. But again, micro-coaching, like micro-learning, is short, frequent bursts. In this case, it's coaching, and it has to be relevant to the employee. So it has to be adaptive as well as micro.
Yeah, absolutely. That personalized touch really does mean a lot when, when you're retaining something that you want them to work on.
Yep, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. So the idea is that you accentuate the strengths, and you really then try to develop the weaknesses. But everybody is different in that, and also everybody, as we know, receives information differently, and they hear things differently. So it's like we have to really adapt to all that.
And we are approaching the last 2 minutes of this first session. You gave us 10 great takeaways. Is there any final note that you'd like to leave the viewers with?
Well, so I think another slide that I want to go back to is this one. By all means, hit the salesfuel.com website. Managers as coaches, that's the research report. We did just mention, are they coachable? The weekly newsletter is great. The podcast is great as far as if you want to get into the heads of managers. If you're not a manager yourself, this is how you get into the heads of what they're thinking about, what they're worried about. We cover that every single week on the Manage Smarter show. And and then of course you can also then go to the expo, which is to see the Coach Feed product. Click on the expo button over there. John Powers is sitting there waiting to show you how micro coaching works in the sales world. And of course, if you want to know more, talk more about how micro coaching can be applied to the non-sales world, then by all means, then reach out to me at my email right there. You'll see my web address down at the bottom, my Twitter feed. By all means, LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already, and I'll be happy to let's start a dialogue there.